So hi everyone, my name is Dr. Danielle Prime and I'm a lactation scientist. So I've been working now for nearly 15 years in researching human milk and lactation. I am a research associate with Medela based in Switzerland, and I'm here today to tell you about a fun new project that I've been looking into, which is culminating in this new breast shield here, the PersonalFit Flex Shield. And so it really comes from a long history of a lot of my research where the very first mum I saw pump, and I recognized just how much this part of the system plays a really functional role in the type of milk the mum's gonna, or the amount of milk the mum's gonna get out. And so I've always considered this part, the breast shield, to be an essential component of the breast pump system. And I've been really fortunate to be able to follow my nose through the years and be able to conduct further and further and further research and be able to come up with something like this, which I've recently been able to show actually releases more milk during a pump session and significantly improves comfort. So I'm really excited today to be joining here on the live and be able to tell you a little bit of the story behind how I ended up here and what kind of benefits this brings to mums. So please, as I'm chatting along, please feel free to ask me any questions about breast shields, about sizing, about anything you like. I'll try my best. And I really hope you enjoy a little bit of this story of how we ended up at this place where we're at now. So, if we have a look at a breast shield, the breast shield is really a part of a system. And if we have a look here, I really want to highlight this. You know, we have a pump, and there are some studies on pumps, but they really focus on vacuum. They focus on how strong the vacuum should be, which should be as high as the mother finds comfortable. They focus on the type of vacuum curves it should be. But to be very honest, over the years, this part here, the breast shield, has been mostly forgotten in clinical research. Yet we know clinically that sizing matters. We know that when we work with mums, we're going to make sure that she's in the right breast shield size. We know that the breast shield size might change. If you're in a hospital setting right now and you're dealing with mums on day 1 and day 2, you might find that the size they need during that window of time is a little bit different to maybe at week 1 or week 2 because things change. So we know this part's important, but we've never really had a clinical study that really and simply tested this part of the system. And so that's what I tried to do. I really went back and compared side by side this new design with this one here. And that's the study actually. So it's a one-of-a-kind study where the intervention was this design of shield versus this design of shield. And so what we found at the end was that this new breast shield really does get out more milk from the mother's breast. And so that tells us that this part of the system is critically important for pumping outcomes. So if you're not today having a look and checking mum's breast shield sizing, then that could be something that you could really start doing to be able to help improve some of those mothers' outcomes or giving some advice on how she can check. And in the future, this type of shield here should help that even further. So to start talking about the story, I need to explain 2 things about the breast shield. One is that I'm going to talk about 2 different parts, and this is really important. This part here is the tunnel of the breast shield. This is the part today that when we say we have different sizes of breast shield, we're changing this part. This tunnel gets wider or smaller in diameter, okay? This part here is the flange of the breast shield. So while the tunnel is meant to fit to the nipple, this part of the breast shield, the flange, is meant to fit to the breast. And it's this part here actually that I've changed. Because to be honest, there are lots of different sizes available of this tunnel, and that's been available for quite some years. So I really wanted to play with this part here because this is the part that really contacts the mum's tissue. And if you're aware of the breast anatomy, the anatomy of the breast now shows, which of course was only recently redefined in 2005, because it's just crazy that this is the type of understanding we have. We have to continually update the textbooks on the anatomy of the lactating breast. But one of the key findings in 2005 from that research was that if you look at the breast anatomy, very superficially, just a few millimeters from the surface of the skin, lie an intricate network of milk ducts. And those milk ducts really need to transfer the milk from inside the breast out to the nipple. So when a baby is breastfeeding or when a mum is pumping, we really want to make sure that all of those highways are open, that there is no traffic jam in the system, and that we can really allow that mum to get as much milk as she can during her letdown or milk ejection. And so that's what we're trying to do with this part, the tunnel. We want to make sure the nipple can fit inside the tunnel and move freely so that we don't compress those milk ducts in the nipple. If we have a tunnel that's too large, it's the same deal. We don't want to have too much tissue entering because we might be, again, compressing those milk ducts just in a different area. And so this part here, the flange, is the exact same story. Ever since I was starting to do my research and looking at mums when they were doing more pumping, I could see that this part here, the breast is not a 90-degree thing. Or I haven't seen many breasts that are truly 90 degrees square, right? Maybe you have, but I haven't seen that many. So the mum has to basically kind of force the breast tissue into this part of the breast shield a little bit. And so that instantly sets it up to be maybe exposed to a little bit of compression from this plastic, which is not ideal. And so what we did was go back, which is really cool. I had a database of 3D breast scans, which are not from happy, beautiful women that are not breastfeeding, right? So not like the plastic surgery type 3D scan databases. These are from everyday, diverse women who are actually making milk. And so you see a huge diversity in breast shape, in size. We see them changing throughout the day as the breast becomes fuller and emptier. It's just a really wonderful database of scans. And what we found was that when we put different models of shields onto those scans, the angle of this flange that best matched the contour of an actual lactating breast was actually 105 degrees. So what we did was open up that part of the breast shield. So we took the breast shield from a 90-degree opening and took it into a 105-degree opening. And that meant that the breast could simply lay nicely connected onto the breast shield, not have to be forced into it. And this has really, really been a fundamental change. I'm going to show you an example of what this means here, and I hope you can see the diagram. But basically, this is what we were looking at. Here, this is the 90-degree shield that I'm talking about, which is pretty much standard today. So if you have a look, we see we can make kind of contact points here and here, which might be compressing those milk ducts and might be slowing down that milk flow. The other interesting thing we found with the scans is that the nipple of the mothers, it really wasn't in the tunnel when we put these shields onto those scans. So when we tell mums how to pump properly, we tell them to place the breast shield onto their breast, center their nipple appropriately in the tunnel. Now for 2/3 of mums, they can't do that because the nipple is not even in the tunnel when they start pumping. So that was quite mind-blowing, actually. So now you turn on the vacuum and now you have to kind of deform and pull all that breast tissue in to start getting milk flowing. And this is the difference that the mums experience themselves, because what we've done here with this 105 degree, we've made sure that that angle really matches the contour of the breast nicely. The nipple is now in the tunnel before the mum turns on vacuum. And when we asked them questions in the first of our clinical studies, what we actually heard feedback on was that the comfort was dramatically improved, but how they described that comfort was that there was a reduction in a pulling sensation. So today with this system, you really have to pull all that tissue in and it kind of releases with every cycle. So with this new design here, we've reduced that pulling sensation. And so everything is just in its place and the movement is really what's needed just to get milk out. We've really removed all of that extra effort on the tissue. So that was really nice to see. So we ran 4 clinical trials to try to understand the benefits that this new design brings. The first 3 were smaller studies, where what we were doing is making sure that in a hospital setting and in a home setting with real repeated use, that this design did not cause any new problems. Because this is something I feel really strongly about. It's really nice to come up with a new idea and a new product and a new concept, but we really need to make sure that we are heading in the right direction, and we really need to test that thoroughly to make sure that this new shape doesn't create another blister or anything untoward. So we were really relieved by the time we got through those first 3 studies that the design was working super well. And so we could conduct then a really large randomized controlled trial to really pit this shield against this shield, to really try to understand what is going on. And so I was really excited to conduct, I was the lead investigator on that research. We conducted it in Switzerland with Swiss mums. And what we found is that when we compared this shield to this shield, the mums, when they pumped with this new breast shield design here, the Flex, they were able to yield 11.8% more milk after 15 minutes of pumping, which I think is a really cool outcome. They rated the comfort pumping with this new shield a 4 or a 5 out of 5, versus when pumping with this shield, where they actually rated it all the way from a 1 to a 5, depending. So we had a huge range of comfort with this one. With the new shield, we really pushed them all up to 4 and 5. The other neat thing about the new breast shield is when we started pumping, and so I'm doing something kind of very, I don't know what you call it. I have lots of cool gadgets, okay? So I have a system on the ground that's measuring the milk flow 8 times per second. So I see everything that's going on with that mum's milk flow pattern. I'm counting milk ejections, I'm getting all of that data live. And so we could actually count how long it took her to have the first letdown or the first milk flow. And so that actually happened faster with the new breast shield compared to the old breast shield. So that really reinforced to me that we're able to have all of the parts of the system in place before we start pumping. That means that the vacuum can really get to work really quickly. That means the mum can have a letdown faster. She can get milk flowing sooner. Then, once her milk starts flowing, by 15 minutes, because it was always controlled, 15 minutes with each shield, then at the end, she's getting out more milk overall, which is a really cool outcome. The other part of the system that we tested is basically what we call the percentage of available milk removed. So this is a really complicated metric, but we want to see volume go up. We also want to see this other metric, percentage of available milk removed, go up as well. And so we get our mums to do a lot of complicated testing so we can really assess how full the breast is and how empty the breast is. And through this system, we could also show that when the mums used the new breast shield, their breast was more drained. So not only was the volume higher, but the drainage of the breast was 4% higher as well. And so as we all know, when we're working with mothers, we really want to get out as much of that milk as possible, because that tells the breast to keep producing milk. Any milk we leave behind is a signal to the breast that perhaps it wasn't needed. So that 4% improvement in drainage is also a really key outcome. So more comfortable, which is great, and more milk, which is super great. And so we were able to finalize all of that in this large randomized control trial and bring forward this new design here, which was a really fun project to work on. Now there's one extra piece, so everything I've said here is really focused on this angle, okay? So changing from this 90-degree angle to this 105-degree angle. But there's one other piece of the puzzle I want to show you, and that's the fact that no longer is the breast shield round. And so this was performed through a series of different experiments with mums and having a look at all of their insights and really having them tell us what they liked, so what kind of design shape that felt good on their breast. And what we found was really an oval shape was really an advantage for mums. And it's really personalizable. So if you ask mums, or if you're ever asked by a mother which way is the right way, it's really important that you can tell them straight away there is no wrong way. Okay, so there's no wrong way to hold the breast shield. It is really up to her and what feels most comfortable for her. And interestingly, around 30% of mums will hold it in a vertical perspective, around 50 or 60% will take it and put it in a horizontal perspective, and a smaller few will put it either oblique this way or oblique this way, which is really interesting. But they can change it over the days, and actually a third of the mums really changed it up. Every day they would pump, or throughout the day they would change the position depending on whether they were comfortable, whether they wanted to do perhaps some hand massage in different areas. They would make sure those areas are more accessible. So they really, really like the oval shape. However, the clinical advantage is really coming from that angle change. So I have a question here from Tara. The question is, when will these be available? And so the design I'm showing you here is the Flex Shield. This PersonalFit Flex Shield is currently available in the US right now. Mums can buy them for their personal use pumps. What is not yet available in the US is a version for hospitals specifically, but that will be coming. That will be coming soon. And the key difference, so that version for the hospital, it will have the exact same oval shape, it will have the exact same 105-degree angle change, but it will not have this extra little soft edge that I'm showing you now, because that, for hospital cleaning purposes, is a no-no, right? So this little soft edge here, that will go away, but all of the other clinical advantages will be seen once that version is available for the hospital setting. So thank you, Tara, for asking that really great question. Okay, so the last thing I guess I'll talk about here is really about sizing. So what's really important is we've only changed this flange part, okay? So what I found is that sizing is really important, and it's based on your nipple diameter, okay? So if a mum is asking you, you can bust this myth straight away, right? So I've got a really large breast, I need a large breast shield. That is not true. So a large breast does not mean a large nipple, and the tunnel diameter the mums need is really based on her nipple diameter, okay? So that's really important here. So tunnel is about nipple, and what we've really tried to improve here is the fit to the breast, to make sure that that breast is really nicely supported and no compressions happening in the wrong locations. So Nicole is asking whether these would help with clogged ducts. So I have to be very clear, we have not looked at that in our research study specifically, because we actually didn't see any mums in our study that had clogged ducts. But the theory behind, or my current hypothesis behind why these work, is really all based back around that milk duct story. So this seems to really help flow. So if you have a look at how fast the milk flows, it flows way faster, especially in that first letdown. So all of that pressure in the breast, pushing that milk out forward, these help that milk just flow, and the peak flow rate is higher and the flow rate every minute is higher, okay? So that tells us that we're really working with the milk duct structures and allowing that milk to flow more freely. So clogged ducts are complicated. We don't know exactly their etiology and where they come from for lots of reasons. If they're coming from a mechanical obstruction, it's possible that then this would help. But if they're coming because the mums are not draining their breast well, then the shield alone may not help solve that problem. Yeah, so you're going to have to obviously have a suite of solutions for her. Make sure she's using her highest maximum comfortable vacuum. Make sure she's using the right tunnel size, and then this shield should help if any of those flow obstructions is happening because of this part of the shield here, the flange. So it would be one part of that puzzle that you'd be working with mums on. All right, so let's have another look here and kind of recap the differences. So the tunnels are the same, okay? So the tunnel diameters here that we have are the same as what you've seen from Medela in the past. And what we've really changed here is this flange part of the shield. So we've opened it up to 105 degrees. We've made it oval in design, which mums really love. And we've added, in this case, for the personal use pumps, a nice little soft edge to really make sure that any of that milk duct compression that might be happening at kind of hard edges like this is really gone. And so one thing I think is really important is that for any breast shield, if you're ever consulting with a mum on how to hold the system while she's pumping, please make sure that when she's pumping, she's holding the system with her hand on the breast like this, okay? So even if we're using today's shield, this applies. Even if it's with a different shield, this still applies. What we see a lot of mums doing is they hold at the bottle and they dig the system in and they push the plastic system really hard against that delicate breast tissue and those milk ducts. And of course, if you're obstructing any of those milk ducts, you really might see a reduction in flow. Okay, so make sure that they hold the system in a relaxed way so that their hand is really over the full surface area of the breast. All right. So question we have here is, will these be in the same sizes as the original PersonalFit PLUS, the PersonalFit for patients? So in the hospital environment, there will be still the 5 sizes available that you're used to. In the personal use pumps environment here, we're going to offer the 4 of the sizes. So that the large version, the 36 millimeter version, which is predominantly only used in hospitals, will be offered in the hospitals and can be accessed by mums that really need it through clinics. But with the soft edge part, we won't offer that 36 millimeter size there. But otherwise, the sizing will be the same. Okay, So if you're really interested to hear more about this story and about some of the other studies leading up to it and more detail about the research, I will be conducting a webinar at 9 a.m. Pacific time on Thursday. There's a link in the comments if you're interested to learn more, and hopefully the peer-reviewed publication will be coming out very soon as well so that you can read it all in full. I hope that you've enjoyed this little version of the story here and can really see the difference that we've really come a long way, and I hope we can do a lot more to improve this part of the system, because we now have the first evidence, the first clear and interventional evidence. This part of the pump system really does make a difference to pumping outcomes. And so I hope it gets a lot more attention in the future. And thank you for tuning in and for supporting your mums every day with this type of clinical advice. Thank you very much. Bye.